This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. KK and Shan, for joining. Please quickly confirm if my screen share is visible and I'm properly audible.
Yeah, it's audible and the screen share is visible.
Okay, thank you. And have you had an opportunity to join my demonstration yesterday or by any chance gone through the recorded session?
Actually, today only I joined.
Sorry?
Today only I joined. Actually.
Okay, okay, fine. So we also have a recorded demonstration class of yesterday. If in case if you get time, please go through it where I have given the expectation settings of this training program that we are doing through Gatling. Yeah. And
Yeah, sure.
okay, so can I have a little overview about your profile, Shan? Like, what do you do? What's your experience? Why you're interested in Gatling? What are the expectations you have?
One second. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I do have around 6 years of experience in performance testing. So I worked on
Mhm.
different tools like Cloud Test Akamai. Then I worked on Jmeter. Now currently working on Jmeter, and I worked on LoadRunner. So I had a curiosity to learn Gatling also because it will helpful for me because if we go for the pipeline, it will be easy to connect because it is developed in Java. So if my project
Mm.
is in Java, means it will be easy for them uh, to connect all our things in one shot, and it will go to the plugin in Jenkins, and it will be very easy to do the performance testing.
Okay, nice. Okay, cool. Fine. So yesterday I spent some time, helping the participants understand that Gatling is a performance testing tool that we use to do performance test, load test, stress test, soak test for web-based applications and as well as for RESTful APIs or SOAP APIs. And I have
Mhm.
divided this entire curriculum into multiple chapters. So chapter one focuses on performance testing basics. And today we'll get started with little introduction towards performance testing and non-functional testing. And chapter two, obviously, we'll talk about the installation process and the prerequisites for Gatling tool. Chapter three focuses on understanding the Gatling recorder tool, which supports HTTP proxy strategy and HAR strategy. And then we'll also talk about the Gatling engine that we use to execute the recorded scripts. And in chapter 4, we'll talk about how to automate web-based applications and how do we do data-driven testing and how to generate the HTML test reports and command line interface test reports. Followed by, we'll also focus on how to run Gatling from GUI mode and non-GUI mode. Chapter 5 talks about how do we automate or how do we do performance testing for RESTful APIs using Gatling, where I will take examples of get APIs, post, put, patch, delete APIs, and then generate nice HTML test reports. Obviously, we'll also learn about the correlation aspect in this. And finally, the last chapter 6 will focus on integration of Gatling with tools such as Git, GitHub, or GitLab, or Bitbucket, and Jenkins. This is the overall curriculum that I stressed more on yesterday's demonstration. Please go through the recorded video, which is available on YouTube. So, our team will help you with the link in case if you do not have access to the link. Is that the, I mean, is the overview of the course curriculum okay, Shan? Have you understood?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting it.
Cool.
And
So now,
by using curriculum, this one we can perform all cloud-based and microservices also, right?
yes, yes, we can.
Okay, if it is kept it in different containers and in different system because in what I saw in the sense main thing in Jmeter we have open source, but there are also few challenges which is available. For example, that single sign-on sometimes we are facing some issues, and if it is MFA things and all is there, right? So through Gatling, is there any workaround to work on that, or can you give a glance about why we go for
Yeah,
Gatling even we have a Jenkins as a, sorry, Jmeter as a open source, which is widely used in the market.
correct, correct. See, when it comes to Gatling, one of the important advantage with Gatling is it uses ACA framework, with the help of which we can do load testing for probably around 50,000 users, 1 lakh users, 2 lakh users without changing your hardware. So even if your computer has 4 gigabytes RAM, you can still conduct load testing for 50,000 users, 1 lakh users, or even 5 lakh users. If it is JMeter, you cannot conduct load testing on a 4 GB computer for 50,000
Hmm.
users because JMeter,
Okay,
uses the virtual users concept and threads concept for which it consumes a lot of memory from the computer. Whereas
got it.
Gatling does
Hmm.
not create users as threads, rather it will create them as messages, which is a terminology there in AKA framework, AKKA framework. That's one of the major differences between Gatling and JMeter. And in fact, the common point between these two things is both of them are coming from the Apache foundation only. Apache JMeter and Apache Gatling. Both of them have the same parent body, which is Apache. And another difference is see, JMeter is a GUI driven tool. You have the GUI with you. You have to just use the elements by right clicking and then choose a sampler or a controller or a listener. Whereas when it comes to Gatling, Gatling is a non-GUI based tool which does not have any graphical user interface. So we depend on a third-party editor like IntelliJ, where we write the scripts in Scala programming language to do performance testing, load testing, and soak testing of our projects. So these are the three major differences between these two, but there are a lot of other differences as well.
Yeah, and one more thing, like as you mentioned, it is come from the same body. So will the JMeter script can be integrated with Gatling in the sense we can use the JMX file which we created that can be executed through our Gatling?
No, no, we cannot because the
No, right?
JMX files are typically in XML format,
Uh,
right? Whereas Gatling uses Scala format. So Scala is a programming
okay, okay.
language. So we will have to use a third-party tool to convert JMX into Scala. And if the third-party tool
Mhm.
supports the conversion, then you can bring them to JMeter. Sorry,
Yeah,
to
that's what
Gatling.
because we already have many plugins which is available, right? So
Hmm. Yes.
I got it.
Okay. Hi, Swati. Good evening.
Hi, Kiran.
Hello,
Good evening.
Swati. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Kiran. Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes,
So is this the
today,
first class, Swati, you're joining, or you have joined my demonstration class yesterday?
no, this is first class only, Kiran. I have gone through,
Okay.
I'm going through the demonstration class as well. That is, a link is available. I'm going through that.
Okay. Cool. So you're coming from performance testing background or from a functional testing? How is it?
I'm from performance testing background only. So currently in my organization, we are using the JMeter. But
Hmm.
when we are using the JMeter, we are facing some limit, JMeter having certain limitations, right? So by our application is like students are launching the courses. So till launch the courses, we are able to achieve. But after launching the course, right? So the content is loading from the third party applications. So we are not
Hmm.
able to record by using JMeter. And that too, if I use the Blaze meter, when I'm executing it from the Blaze meter or JMeter, it's not. We are getting some authentication failure errors like that because that since we are using the third party application, they have more security. So to overcome that, my our team is suggested to go for the Gatling. So
Okay. Good. Nice. Okay. So I request you guys to spend some time and go through our demonstration class yesterday. So that will give you a quick overview of our course content and what I would be teaching and the expectations of this course. So today is the day one of our course where I'll be starting off with chapter one, where we'll talk about some basics around performance testing. So I'll write my quick notes over here. See, we are all coming from testing background, right? So in testing, we have heard of something called as functional testing and non-functional testing. And obviously, when we say performance testing, it comes under non-functional testing category because while testing the performance of your application, we do not validate the functionalities. We assume that the functionality developed is working 100% with stability, and then only the performance of the application will be evaluated. So point one that we have to note it is performance testing is a non-functional testing, right? Where we evaluate the non-functional aspects of the application. Now, when I say non-functional aspects, there are so many metrics around performance testing that we do. So we'll come there in a little while. But when I talk about testing in general, testing can be categorized as functional testing as well as non-functional testing, right? So let's come here. I will say testing, we can categorize it as functional testing as well as we can categorize it as non-functional testing. I mean, see, when we are freshers, we also heard of testing as automation testing versus manual testing. Testing can be positive testing and negative testing. Testing can be the functional testing as well as non-functional testing, right? Now, when we talk about functional testing, here we evaluate the functionality of the application or we validate the output of the application, meaning what is the desired output of the application when certain inputs are provided to the application. Like when I enter a valid username and password, my expectation is that I should be logged in and I should be taken into the landing page or the dashboard page where I can see the real dashboard of how my user base is, how my emails look like, etc. When it comes to non-functional testing, there are so many non-functional characteristics that we verify, right? So example of non-functional testing techniques could be, obviously performance testing is one such technique. Then we have security testing, which also comes under non-functional testing. Then we have usability testing, which also comes under non-functional. Then we have compatibility testing, which also comes under non-functional. Then we have accessibility testing. Then we have internationalization testing and localization testing, so etc. So all these testing techniques, they would be part of your non-functional testing. Now, when we say functional testing, we have been doing smoke testing, retesting, regression testing, or I can say system testing, end-to-end testing, or you also use the word sanity testing. We do ad hoc testing, exploratory testing, etc. So these testing techniques that typically come under your functional testing category, whereas when it comes to non-functional testing, there are a few examples I have written down, like starting from performance, it goes until accessibility and etc. Right? So when it comes to performance testing, which is obviously our course topic, it is a non-functional testing, right? And in non-functional testing, what do we evaluate? Like what is the aim or what is the objective of performance testing? Meaning irrespective of the tool we use, right? Whether we use LoadRunner or Gatling or Jmeter, there has to be an objective for all of us with which we do performance testing, right? So what are the typical objectives of performance testing? Let me see if you guys can help me with an answer. So Shan, Swati, do you want to contribute a single line of answer from your experience? What are the objectives of performance test?
Yeah, yeah. The objective will be like uh, we have to break the system because at a particular point of time we have to check the availability of the application because nowadays it is 24/7. So we have to check
Hmm.
the availability and like each and every time the user load going to be increased because the whenever the business is going, it's going to be keep on increasing. So to encounter that, uh, uh, performance testing became very crucial nowadays because business this is mainly for our business. So the real competitors, we have to compete, and our application should be good enough. Then only we will attract more number of clients. That's what I
Perfect.
have.
Yeah, good. Good, Shan. I think you summarized it in a better way. Uh, so I'll put it in some simpler points as well, adding to what you said. Right. So irrespective of the tool that we use for performance testing, there has to be certain objectives, right? So let us write the objective of performance testing is uh, the first objective would be uh, I'll say verify if the server returns successful response code, which is 2xx series, right? I hope you understand 2xx series, right? 200 to 299, the status codes. If not, when we talk about client and server architecture in tomorrow's session, I will talk about it. One of the objective of performance testing is always check whether the server is always returning a successful response code or not during performance test. The second one could be verify if the server is returning valid response body, which is more of a functional check. Right? So we know that the server has to be available all the time. At the same time, when we are doing performance test for one user or thousands of users, the server should be giving us a valid response, and the content in the response also should be valid enough. Only then I will say that the application's performance is good. Let's say there are 10 participants in this class, and let's say Shan says, hey Kiran, what is Gatling? And I'm getting too many questions from other participants. And I'll answer Shan that Gatling is a movie released in Hyderabad or released across India. So I give a response to Shan, but that's not a valid response, right? I gave an incorrect answer to what is Gatling. So here verify if Kiran is giving a valid response or not is also important, irrespective of how many people are there in the class and how many questions are coming to Kiran. So always ensure that the server is returning a valid response body. The valid response could be in any format. It could be in HTML format, JSON format, XML format, text format, YAML format, etc. It could be in any format according to what the developer has designed. Then verify if the server is not returning any 4xx, meaning client side error, and 5xx, which is server side error codes, right? So I'll talk about 4xx and 5xx series again during client and server. But since you said you guys come from LoadRunner Jmeter background, you might have some little understanding at least. 4xx are the errors that comes from the server citing the reason that these errors are happening because of the request coming from client, meaning the client had made an invalid request. Hence, client-side errors will be thrown by server. Sometimes the server could be the reason why the application is not responding. So the server is either busy or shut down or getting restarted. That's when the server errors will come. So during performance testing, we have to ensure that these errors do not come up. And we will validate all these things through Gatling. In fact, we can do them with any tool using LoadRunner, using Jmeter. We have to validate it. Then verify if the server is not resulting in too many redirections, which is 3xx response codes. So 3xx is a redirectional response code where the server tells the client that I'm so busy, hence I have to redirect you to some other client. Okay. And the other server, so one server redirected it to another server, and that another server could also redirect to some other server. So too many redirections will result in a delayed response to the client, and the client becomes a little frustrated and unhappy because the time taken by the server to respond is very long, or it is increasing because of redirections. So as a performance tester, we have to ensure that the server is not resulting in too many redirections. And another point I can also talk about is verify if the response from the server comes within the defined SLA. SLA stands for service level agreement. So the response time from the server is also playing a critical role in performance testing. So I'm probably bombarding the server with thousands of users requests. Now the server can say that, yes, I gave responses to all the clients. Fantastic. But how much time the server has taken? Has it taken the time which is a desirable time, or has it taken time which is an undesirable time? Example, when I'm accessing Amazon.in after the class is completed, I get responses quick enough. And Amazon is experiencing, lakhs of users traffic every day, every second, every minute, right? So that need not be a reason for Amazon to say that, Kiran, your request is parked and we will reserve when we'll send a response after 2 minutes or after 30 seconds. I cannot wait for those many seconds for any page to open up, for any item to be added to shopping cart, or for any item to be added to the payment gateway, right? So the application response time is pretty much important from a server side perspective. Okay, so these are few of the objectives of performance testing. And another thing that we also have to do is something like a prerequisite, I can say. And see, now when we think of performance test, right? Uh, I'm not the only guy in the world who is using that application on the server. There are so many people, like-minded people like me and like you, who also use the application. So if I say Amazon.in, now Swati uses it probably from her smartphone. Shan uses it from his computer. Kiran also uses Amazon.in from his computer. Let's say I'm using Chrome browser and Windows. Shan uses Mac operating system and Safari. Swati probably is using Firefox browser on her smartphone. So, but the request is still the same. The request is Amazon.in, right? And then the traffic from your phones, from your computers, is coming through specific browsers. So in India, people will access Amazon.in in multiple ways, right? They access from different browsers, different operating systems, different versions of the browser, different, I would say, smartphones, different operating systems on the smartphone. So the way, the medium through which you access an application is different. Meaning, when we do performance test, we should also consider that factor here. So I will say verify if the client tool means, in our case, it is Gatling tool, because we are using Gatling as a tool for performance test in this course. Verify if the client tool is configured to submit virtual users request from different operating systems, different browsers, and different versions of each browser. So we have to take this as a prerequisite or as a configuration. Only then we'll be doing a real-time performance test. Okay. Then moving further, obviously, we'll have to decide the ramp up strategy, the virtual users strategy from the client side, which means how many users should I be creating and what should be the ramp up period for these guys so that they hit this server. So that also is something that we have to aim. So I'll say verify the ramp up strategy and the virtual users count and configuration details so that we can bombard or hit the server to conduct load test or endurance test or soak test. Right? So these are few of the objectives that we should be keeping in our mind before we conduct performance test. Right? Of course, there is another point. I mean, the list continues. So I can also say that, let's say if I take e-commerce application like Amazon.in, Swati could be buying something from, let's say, beauty products. Shan could be buying something from, let's say, smartphones category. And let's say Kiran is buying something for his kids. So I'll get into kids section and buy some toys or some cars for my kids. So each of us are visiting the same website, Amazon.in. However, our choice of request is different. One is going for fashion products, one is going for electronics products, another one is going for dress or toys or automobiles section. So that the request that we are making is different. So that also should be kept in mind while we do performance test. So I will say another objective or another aim or another goal will be verify if the client tool, again when I say client, I mean my Gatling tool, is configured to submit different types of requests to the server, which means that is data driven testing should be considered for load test. So what is data driven testing? It's a testing that we do based on different values of test data, right? For example, all the manual testers, they do data driven testing, subconsciously. Like if I say that there is an application where we have a sign up functionality or a sign in functionality, we have to enter the username, the password, and click on sign in button or login button. So how do we test it? We generally say, okay, let us test for valid username, valid password. Then we say valid username, invalid password. Then we say invalid username, valid password. Then we say invalid username, invalid password. Then we say valid username but empty password, or empty username and probably a valid password, or sometimes both the fields being empty, etc. Like this, we test the login functionality for these many combinations, right? Most of us say that this is test case 1, then this is test case 2, this is test case 3, but that's not the right thing. It's only one test case you have written, but this is test data 1, this is test data 2, this is test data 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 8 sets of test data that we have created for one test case. So testing that one test case with these many 8 test data is called as data driven testing, because your single test case is being tested with different sets of test data: valid, invalid, empty, not empty, etc. So that's called as data driven testing. So we have to do data driven testing as well in performance testing. That's when you do realistic justification to your performance test. Okay, so these are the different objectives or criteria that we have to keep in mind while doing performance testing, irrespective of the tool that we use. Let me take a pause here. Any questions from Swati, Shan?
And good, Kiran.
Cool.
Yeah, Kiran, I have one question regarding that redirection. So, verify if the server is resulting in a redirection means, like whenever we are recording, that auto redirect will happen, right? So, in the sense, what will be the workaround for that, and as a performance tester, how we will show this as a issue or something?
See, to capture the redirections, there are a lot of tools available. One, we can check this in the browser, the Chrome developer tools. Two, we can use a tool called Fiddler, where Fiddler will capture the traffic that's going from your browser to the server. So Fiddler will act as a proxy and it will capture all the calls that your browser is sending to server and how server is responding. So if there are 2 to 3 redirections, it is okay. That auto redirection is a common thing. Probably, sometimes the protocol gets auto redirected from HTTP to HTTPS, right? So
Hmm.
the default caching is also one redirection that happens. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 redirections are okay. But if the redirections are increasing, like beyond 5, beyond 10, that's when we say the performance of the application will be impacted, because more the redirections, the client is told to wait because the server is still forwarding to some other server which is available. So the client is still told to wait. Like, we wait in government office and they will make us wait for eternity until, they complete the documentation that we have asked for. So we get frustrated when you visit government offices because those people are little lazy, right? I mean, they tend to delay things. So when they delay it, what's happening? They're telling you, right? Please wait, we are working on it. Please wait, we are working on it. And the more number of please wait you hear, the more frustration you get. Same is the case here as well. When too many redirections are happening, client is also unnecessarily waiting and getting frustrated. So redirections are inevitable. Like 1, 2, 3 redirections are common. We cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
look at the count of redirections. To look at it, you can use a tool like Wireshark, Fiddler, or your internal Chrome developer tools on the browser can also be used.
Okay.
And the redirections will happen most of the times when the servers are busy and not too many servers are configured on the cluster. Like only two servers are available. Server 1 says I'm busy, go to server 2. Server 2 says I'm also busy, go back to server 1. So back and forth the transactions will also be little little lazy and time consuming for the client side. Okay, so that's about the objectives that we have to keep in mind. Now coming to performance testing, right? The performance testing family. So I've told you that performance testing is a non-functional testing. Under the umbrella of performance testing, we have certain subcategories. Like when we say performance testing, there is a family under performance testing. Different categories, different testing techniques are available within performance testing. So we have something called as response time testing. Then we have something called load testing. Then we have something called stress testing. Then we have something called endurance or soak testing. We still have a lot of other testing techniques like volume testing, spike testing, etc. But they're all additional definitions which are almost the same as these ones. But let us focus on understanding these four definitions first, because this is something that every customer expects the testing team to conduct and provide a report. So when we say response time testing, this is the time taken by the server to respond to one user request. Like Shan asked me a question. So Shan is the client and the question came to Kiran. So Kiran is the server. The time taken by Kiran to give a response to Shan is called as response time testing. So this response time testing is typically conducted for one user only. So here the definition will be the response time taken by the server to attend a client request and for one virtual user only is called as response time testing. Now, when the customer says, hey, I'm looking not for one users, I'm looking for like minimum 50 users, 100 users, or two users, more number of users. When the number of virtual users are more than one, that's when we use the terminology load testing. So we do load testing to evaluate the server behavior. So the purpose of doing load testing is you hit the server, you bombard the server with multiple virtual users requests, and each user trying to iterate the same request again and again. And we see at what point of time the server tries to break down. That's when we say the load testing is conducted. So load testing is conducted to evaluate the server behavior, the server capability, the server performance. So I will say it is conducted by hitting or bombarding the server with lots of virtual users. Can be anything greater than one virtual user, and it can go anything until thousands, lakhs, hundreds. So this is conducted by bombarding the server with lots of virtual users to validate the server response time and or as well at what time the server breaks down. Okay? Because when you do load testing, the virtual users are hitting the server. So users are happy because they are hitting the server with a request and happily staying back. The server is getting a lot of pressure because it is continuously receiving the request from the client, and it receives kind of pressure from different clients saying, hey, what happened to my request? So that's when we do load testing to see how well the server is answering all these objectives. So we validate all these objectives during load testing. So I'll write here, we will validate the above mentioned performance testing objectives during load test. Are you clear, guys, on what is response time testing, load testing? Any questions?
Yeah, yeah, Kiran. They will call it as a baseline. So company to company it differs, but everything is the same only. Yeah.
Okay, good. Then we have stress testing. Now, stress testing is a continuation of load test. The only difference is in stress test, we figure out at what point of time the client will break down. In load testing, we focus when the server breaks. In stress testing, we will check when the client will break. I'll give an example. Let's say, you guys are asking me continuous questions and I'm feeling the load. And while I'm thinking to give you an answer, I might take 1 minute to give an answer. After 1 minute is done, I'm coming back to you and trying to give an answer. And let's say Swati says, it's okay, Kiran, you can continue the session. Because Swati felt a little bad because I took 1 minute to answer her question. Meaning she reached that patience limit, right? I mean, she can wait for less than 60 seconds, but I made her wait for more than 60 seconds. So she lost her patience. She felt a little humiliated because Kiran took more time to answer her questions. So that's when she timed out, and either she says, okay, Kiran, continue to the next topic, or we'll talk about this question later. Because she's a little frustrated, she is not in a good mood to listen to the answer anymore. Or sometimes she even disconnects the phone call and goes back, right? So every human being has that patience limited. There is a limit of elasticity that we wait for. Once it exceeds, we tend to close the conversations and go back, right? That's what stress testing is all about. So this is conducted during load test, where the clients are evaluated to verify at what time they time out and result in client server connection getting closed. So we conduct stress test to evaluate the client behavior and at what time they lose patience or they break down or they time out. Similarly, I want to put a similar statement here as well. We conduct load test to evaluate the server behavior. So simple difference. Load testing is conducted for servers, I mean to analyze the server's behavior. Stress testing is conducted to analyze the client's behavior. Okay. But both the load test and stress test will happen at the same time. Is that clear for everyone, or you have a different understanding of stress test and load test?
Yes, Kiran. Actually, stress testing means to know the breaking point of the server, right? Like load
Breaking
testing, we
point of the client actually. See, I'll tell you, when the client breaks down, the client will disconnect from the server. So after the client is disconnected from the server, then your definition will come into picture.
In the
So
sense
it is
like
always a
application itself
break-even
manually
point on the
not
client
available.
side.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. It's like application itself manually not available. That's what you are
Correct,
talking about, right?
correct, correct. That's
Yeah.
right.
okay, okay.
Finally, we have endurance test and soak test. They're one and the same. Now we do endurance test when we want to test the server for a continuous duration. Like I want to hit the server not for 100 users, not for 10 users. I want to hit the server with multiple requests continuously for 1 hour. When you do something like that, we use the terminology endurance test. Because in 1 hour, you might be hitting at least 1 lakh requests. right? So we want to see whether server can continuously receive requests from different clients across the world, for a continuous period of 1 hour or 1 minute or 30 minutes or one day, like that. So endurance test is typically conducted for those servers which are supposed to work 24 by 7, like all the e-commerce applications, Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Oyo, Ola, Uber Taxi, Zomato, Swiggy. So these kind of applications that we use on a daily basis, right? They go through endurance test, because every day, like if you look at Swiggy or Zomato, someone or the other in India, they will definitely be ordering, right? They might be ordering breakfast, they might be ordering some cool drinks, they might be ordering some fresh juice, they might be ordering some Instamart groceries, they might be ordering lunch items, they might be ordering snacks, they might be ordering dinner items. A lot of things are there to order, right? So meaning their servers are getting requests continuously. So they have to check whether their servers will be operational continuous or not, or after 3 hours of serving, they will say, now I have to restart because my CPU utilization has gone beyond 100. So that's what we do in endurance testing. At until what time one server will work continuously, and then it will try for a restart. According to this, the developers and the DevOps team will figure out how many servers they need to purchase and put it on the cluster on the cloud. So I will say this is an extended form of load test conducted when the client requests are bombarded to the server for a continuous duration, say 1 hour or 1 minute or 30 minutes, like whatever you say, etc. Okay? So this is an extended form of load test where the client requests are bombarded to the server, or I can say or hit to the server for a continuous duration to check if the server responds to all the numerous client requests it received during the uh, load test, or I can say whether to check if the server responds to all the numerous client requests received during the um, continuous during the specified duration. Okay? I can say all e-commerce applications go through this kind of soap test. Okay? So we will be able to do all these four testing using any automation tool, be it Jmeter or Gatling or anything. We will be able to do all these things. So these are the four major definitions, that a performance test engineer should be aware of, because this is what they'll be doing, irrespective of the tool that they use. Right? So any questions for me, Shan, Swati, until now?
I'm good.
Okay.
And
So, yeah, thank you. So just to highlight, this is what we have just covered. I'll strike it off. So these are the parameters that we have these are the topics that we have covered for today. We still have a couple of other pointers which I'll be taking them in tomorrow's class. But if you have any questions in general also, apart from what we discussed about performance testing or about this course, please feel free to ask those questions.
Kiran, when the Gatling session will start? After how many days?
I think the next three classes will be more on theory around performance testing, client and server architecture, and then request headers and response headers. All these things are the
Mm.
foundation blocks for Gatling tool. So after three classes, I think we will start with the setup of Gatling, installation of Gatling, and so forth.
Okay.
So I would say
Uh,
today is Thursday, right?
mhm.
Friday, one class, then Monday, Tuesday, maybe around the third May is when we'll be starting the Gatling installation and setups.
Yeah, and Kiran, one more thing is like, see, we if we use LoadRunner for certain purpose, right? For example, we can use multiple different protocols. And for Jmeter, it is open source, and we have many plugins which is available. So we can integrate and we can play. For example, InfluxDB we can integrate, and I can take the Grafana dashboard like that. So like that, Gatling can be integrated with different systems, or how it will be.
Any tool supports the integration. Gatling also supports it, but with the Gatling open source, whatever we are using in the course, we will see the integration between Jenkins and Git and GitHub. But if you go for enterprise version of Gatling, which is a licensed version, then it can be integrated with Grafana.
Directly Grafana, we don't need like an interface like InfluxDB or something.
Yeah, we need those interfaces like you said, but
Okay.
we have to go for the paid version of Gatling for achieving those things.
Okay. And
Jmeter is
we
always free.
yeah, and we should have a knowledge of Java much deep, or is it fine? Because I'm working on JMeter, I have a minimal of to play around with that, right? So I am sound very much good about that. But if we go depth into Java, I'm not that much confident. So how it will be like if I use that?
See, your experience of JMeter is enough to learn Gatling. We don't need any programming language experience unless you go for the advanced version of test executions. So your current JMeter experience should be good enough.
Okay.
So, Kiran, what is the course duration?
This will be for nearly 18 to 20 classes, around 20 hours, I would say.
Okay,
It can be
fine.
extended. I mean, I'm giving, based on the way we continue, based on the flow I take. I usually teach a little slow so that the foundations are clear. So it will take at least, 20 to, I mean, bare minimum 20 hours is something I can assure, but it can be extended a little bit as well.
Okay, okay, no issue.
Uh,
I'll say
and one more
probably
thing,
by
Kiran.
May 30th
Yeah,
is when
yeah.
we'll be closing this. Yeah.
Yeah, Kiran, as you mentioned, like by using Gatling, we can access the third-party application also, or how it is.
Sorry, by using?
By using Gatling, we can encounter that like third-party applications. Like for example, we will encounter MFA. These things and all can be encountered through Gatling.
See, when you talk about multi-factor authentication, no tool provides a quick solution for it. So if JMeter has a problem in answering multi-factor authentication, the same is the problem with LoadRunner, the same is the problem with Gatling as well. So we need to understand how that multi-factor authentication is working. Let's say you get a secret code in email. So to
Mhm.
copy that email code, to copy that secret code in the email, the developer will say, I have an API. If you call that API, you will get the secret code automatically. Maybe you have to call a
Mhm.
get API. So that get API, if you have, then we can easily handle multi-factor authentication. What we
It's
see
yeah,
is
it's
that
like
the
a
code is
stub.
there on the email.
We can create a stub kind of thing, and we can put it over there, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, every tool has that multi-factor authentication challenge. So either you have to tell the developer to hard code the code always in the testing environment, so we can use the same secret code in testing, or tell him to give us an API so I can call that API and get the new secret code present, because the same API is also used to send an email to the user. So we have to talk a little technical to the developer so that he will help us. What we do is like, okay, the code is there on my phone, so how do I talk to my phone? The code is there on my email, how do I talk to the email? You're looking at the end result. You should talk about the middleware, meaning how did the email come? Is it through an API? Then let me ask the API details, and then I can do it with Gatling or Jmeter. Or how did I get an SMS? Is it through an API? Okay, give me the API details, I will talk to that API and get the code. then you don't have to talk to phone, SMS, you don't have to talk to your email also. These are the solutions that every developer will provide.
Okay. And Kiran, one more thing, like if I complete my course, whether I will be able to handle a casual project directly or how it will be.
Handle what? Sorry.
See, if I complete our Gatling course, if I assign with any new project with Gatling, whether I will be able to take up the project directly or
See, okay. See, in my view, I would definitely say yes. I can give you that confidence in the course. And this is more of a practical course, right? So we'll be doing everything practically. And you'll also be doing along with me practically. And you'll be asking many questions that you encounter in life. So by the end of the course, I'm sure every participant will get that confidence. And they should be able to do at least, 70 to 80% of their performance testing assignments. And there is always a learning curve, right? Like I cannot teach 100% of Gatling. It's not possible for anyone to teach, right? So we focus on the major areas of Gatling that every person should know. So that confidence and comfort, I will give it to all the participants.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Hmm.
And
So,
I went through like a few videos in YouTube and all. And Gatling, they are providing different dashboard also, right? From their own.
that's the probably you are looking at the enterprise version of it.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Gatling Enterprise has a dashboard. Gatling Open Source does not have it. So we are using the Gatling open source, which is open source, and Gatling Enterprise is a commercial paid version.
Yeah, because for report generation and all, we'll be having like a handy, right? If you go for Jmeter, we have aggregator report, summary report. So we can take that one and we can directly put. But in the case of Gatling for reporting purpose, then how we will do that?
We will have HTML reports in Gatling also. That also we will talk. We will
Oh,
show. Gatling supports HTML
okay.
reports and CLI reports. We will generate HTML.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Laprince. Looks like you joined a little late. How are you?
I'm fine. Sorry, the weather is not okay for me to join early.
Okay. Okay. So you will get a recorded video of what we discussed today. Please go through that in case you have missed. Uh, and
Okay.
I request you guys also to go through the recorded session of yesterday so that you can relate what I spoke yesterday and what I did today. And accordingly, we'll continue the class tomorrow based on your enrollments. If you have any queries, please talk to Mr. Kumar. I guess you have his number on the WhatsApp. Please WhatsApp him and get the details in case if you have any. And then based on the enrollments, I think the tomorrow's class will be continued. Right. So I think that's all I have for today's session. I think you guys have been pretty much interactive today. Thank you, Sean, Swati, and thanks, Laprins, for joining. So
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys again tomorrow, and you guys take care, stay safe.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you.
Thank you.